Well, joining me in the studio is Efetobo Awahna, is the Chief Executive Officer of Avant Great Tours Limited, and Sam Adeleke of Afro Tourism Limited. Both gentlemen are already on set now, and we'll be talking more on the benefits and what we can harness from the tourism sector. I must thank you very much for joining us on Business Tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I think I'll start from Efetobo. The tourism sector, particularly when Nigeria slid into recession, there's been lots of issues that the tourism sector and aviation sector can actually stabilize this economy. I don't know what you make of that.
The truth is that everywhere in the world, tourism is the greatest driver of economic growth. And that simply means that we can harness tourism and pay less attention to oil that Nigeria has depended on solely in the last how many years. For one thing, tourism employs 1 out of 11 people all over the world. So it's the biggest industry in the world. Now, what have we made of tourism? We need to do a lot of soul searching as a country and start to look at ways to harness tourism resources so that we can have it as a major source of foreign exchange earning for Nigeria. And it's important to note that oil that we depend on will soon become extinct or useless, if I were to say. I jokingly tell my friends that in about 20 years' time, perhaps we'll start to use our oil to cook banga soup. Because imagine that China, Norway, the UK, a lot of countries have mentioned dates, 2025, 2040, when they will stop using petrol-driven cars. So what happens to us? China is today, our biggest buyer for our oil. So we need to start to look at these things and really focus on tourism, which is a renewable resource on its own.
Okay, next question now. Sam, many countries take advantage of the tourism sector. I know of Kenya, I know the revenues coming in from there. And a country like Nigeria, why are we not tapping? What are the challenges? What do you think is hindering Nigeria from taking advantage of the tourism sector?
So far over the years, Nigeria has not appointed people who are tourism experts, tourism leaders, people who have an understanding of the sector. Over the years, there's been political appointments, people just seeing tourism as a cash cow and another department in government circles. So over the years, the reason why we have not been tapping into the potential is simply because of leadership. And right now, thanks to the appointment of the regulator, the NCDC, demand has shown leadership, especially with this campaign, the Tour Nigeria campaign, which is aimed at driving intra-Nigeria tourism, domestic tourism. He wants Nigerians to explore Nigeria, to visit destinations. For example, we have the Awahna Lake in Oyo State, which is one out of the 2 hanging lakes in the world in Nigeria. We also have Ikogosi Warm Spring, which is the only attraction in the whole world that has the warm and the cold spring flowing side by side. We have the Olumbo Rock. We have the tallest waterfall in West Africa. That's the Owu Falls in Kwara State. So if we have people who are manning these sites and who understand how to market and sell these destinations and also receive tourists, we will be able to compete with Kenya and Rwanda. And also the visa regime. Do we have a visa on arrival policy for even Africans? Rwanda, for example, has visa on arrival for every African. So if Nigerians cannot even travel, that's in the diaspora now, people cannot even get visa to even come to the country and get into the airport. They cannot even get visa easily. You are told visa is $25, but you're asked to pay $50. Then you are given a receipt of $25. So who has that? Who gets the other balance? So such factors are some of the things that are hindering the growth of tourism in Nigeria.
Sam just identified something very, very important there. Talking about the Tour Nigeria thing, I've also been to Ikogosi and a few of some of these places. But the development strides, we've not really developed most of these sites that we have, so-called. We've not really taken advantage of it. What do we need to do? He's talking about putting the right pegs in the round hole, but how do we get it right, talking about our sites, our tourism sites?
Well, personally, I think that it's a vicious circle. One thing, on one hand, you're looking at government and policy and regulation, and on the other hand, you're looking at us as Nigerians. Now, one of our major problems as a country is the average Nigerian. Every day we have hundreds of people who travel out of this country. And the average Nigerian, 99% of them will demarket Nigeria when they go out. So it's important that as a people, we begin to understand and realize what tourism is. And the average indigene of Ogun State or resident of Ogun State should know, or even Abeokuta should know where Olumorok is. You'll be surprised that there are people in Lagos State, for example, who have not been to Lekki Conservation Center or who have not been to Badagry, or Epe or something like that. Now, when we begin to realize as a people our tourism potentials, our vast, the riches of what we have to offer, then we can begin to speak to people about it. Now, on the government side, you're also looking at policies that will then complement this. So whichever way we look at it, once government begins to see that Nigerians are visiting our attractions, then it will naturally attract some of the investments that we expect government to make. For example, let's use the case of Nollywood. 10 years ago, no government reckoned with Nollywood. But today, successive governments have been voting huge resources to Nollywood because you had players who came together and who decided to make a change and who decided to make something out of Nollywood. So the same thing we're saying, let's the players stakeholders in tourism also come together and begin to do what they can do on their own. Let the average Nigerian also see it as not just leisure or business. Let them also see that they are giving back to those communities that they visit. For example, imagine how many people benefit from every tourist that visits Idore Hills, for example. Hotels will get to be booked. Hotels will employ cleaners and staff, and they will employ chefs. So the kitchen will need to buy foodstuff, so farmers will benefit. Someone will sell eggs to that restaurant because everyone who stays in that hotel must have breakfast. And then how about shoe shiners? How about the little market woman who will sell slippers and all of them? How about tour guides? How about translators sometimes? Now, how about restaurants, souvenir makers? So the value chain is really, really humongous. Once we begin to see the business end of tourism and the fact that tourism basically is pro-poor, which means that it has the highest trickle-down effect than any other industry in the world, it will get to the person at the bottom of the pyramid. We need to begin to see these things and take affirmative action to grow domestic tourism.
Sam,
yes.
The ripple effect, it's really important because I'm just trying to I'm looking about it in a bigger form. Look at an example of really tourism like the just concluded celebration. Okay. Look at people all around. People could make funds, small businesses, and people were able to make ends meet just for that 1 week that ran. Now, one thing remains important. The forex issue was also a challenge to the sector, and it hit it hard. And also security, because that's what will make people come here. Right. Foreigners would not come when they don't even know how they would even get their currencies. They don't know how the exchange rates and all of that. What effect has this had on planning and all of this? Your like the Niger tour team.
Okay. Now, security is interestingly not a peculiar issue to Nigeria. Even Kenya, which is one of the top 5 tourism earners in Africa, as the Al-Shabaab in the north. But that is not what the world is focusing on. Why? Because they're spending so much on marketing, destination marketing. Now, Kenya, Rwanda, South Africa, they spend as much as $19 million on selling their countries per annum. Now, Nigeria does not even have that kind of budget that's allocated. Now, security is not, we have the best of hands. We have one of the best armies, police in Africa. So these guys can take care of tourists when they come to Nigeria. In fact, there are escorts that will provide on the tours. But then, how are we controlling the narrative? That is the question here. The question is not so much about security. Is London safe? Is the US safe? We've heard so much about the bombings and all, but people still troop into Nigeria despite the stories they hear. The other day we had someone from an international hotel chain and gone to Lagos and was like, oh my God, is this Lagos? Because what he was told was that Lagos is not a place where you can even walk on the street that you'll be grabbed. you know. But if we constantly push the narrative out there, security is a list of our problems. I can assure you. It's simply who is telling the story, how are we telling it, and what is the resources that is backing the consistent stories that are being told. So I believe that is something very, very similar. And also, I also believe that if governments can make the resources in Nigeria to be democratized for the use of the common man. For example, now Lagos is building and unveiling 24 monuments, among which is the Celebration, the Fela monument in Allen Avenue. They are building these monuments all over Awolowo, you get. Now, if the government of Lagos collaborates with tour guides in each of these locations all over Lagos, so that at least 10 tour guides are attached to each of these monuments, and people who come in, they are the ones that will interpret, that will tell the story around it, the history. You know, it reduces crime, because security is simply about crime prevention, and people will be engaged if there is something to do. You know, so if we're engaging people and ensuring that this infrastructure that is being built by Lagos government, very, very fantastic stuff, the rail, the transportation, the water, let the local people be involved. Let guides, let young people man these things, teach them about the history, let them dress well, let them talk to people well, let them smile at tourists, let them welcome people well. You know, this on its own, naturally, the people that come, they are the ones that will put the post on TripAdvisor, on Google. You know, naturally, these things, the narrative will change if the government place premium on destination marketing, first of all, on infrastructure, building it, and then, which is very key, the roads are bad. We need these roads to last long. You can't build a new road and then you are maintaining it again the next month. These roads should be good, light, you know. All these things are complementary resources that the people themselves, they'll be the ones to market and sell Nigeria by default.
If it was to round up, your views on that, on getting it right. He's identified lots and lots of things, responsibilities of the government to actually make this work. I totally agree, but this sector needs to be tapped into. Remember when Nigeria was rebased, entertainment and all of that took the top put. So if we take advantage of the tourism sector, a lot could happen.
Yeah, that's very true. What I would like to say is that a lot has to be done by the operators, by the stakeholders, by tourism professionals. We need to begin to develop products. Now, what we have in Nigeria is the case where people don't even know what products they can enjoy in Nigeria. For example, what are our strengths in Nigeria? Every country has its own kind of products that they can sell. So what can we market? Look at the fact that we have over 250 ethnic groups. So we're very rich on culture, and this is what foreigners want to enjoy. Look at the fact that we have natural attractions. We have waterfalls, over 20 waterfalls
in Nigeria,
all over the country. We have mountains, beautiful. Look at Obudu Mountain Resort. Look at the Mambila Plateau. Now, all of these things, when we decide to then build ecotourism, attract products that people can buy into. For example, my company launched a website where you can go online and book a 3-night package, for example, in Jos. You can book a 3-night package in Lagos, or a 7-night package, you know, in Kano. Once people can begin to see those things, let me give a typical example of our package in the Southwest. He mentioned Mikogosi Warm Springs, Olumiri Waterfalls, and all of those. Now, it would interest you to know that that is a very, very rich axis. Countries all over the world develop tourism routes. Now, good enough, the governor of Ondo State recently, you know, supported Airpeace to launch flights into Akure. And now, from Akure, within a 1 hour, 30 minutes radius, you can have myriads of tour attractions.
Efetobo, Awahna, C.E.O. Avant stores. I know you can go on and on. It's your forte, I know. But I must thank you, gentlemen. Sam Adeleke, our Government Relations Department for Afro Tourism, and Efetobo, Awahna, Chief Executive Officer of Avant Limited. Thank you very much for joining us, looking at the benefits inherent in the tourism sector. Thank you for joining us on Business Tonight.
Thank you for having us.